G'day! Massive relief for the four teams whose cars were missing from their garages yesterday afternoon after aircraft issues delayed their transport by more than 30 hours. More on that, plus all the action from Media Day here in Shanghai coming up. The four teams that were affected yesterday were McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin and Red Bull. Their cars were more than 30 hours late arriving, which meant all sorts of dramas for those teams waiting to get their cars into the garage and rebuilt. So here's how it played out yesterday afternoon. The cars and a whole lot of other freight rolled up between about 2 and 4 p.m. The teams were then allowed to go and unpack their freight and get their cars into the garage. Normally, the curfew kicks in at 6:30 p.m, but obviously because this was a rare case, the crews were allowed to work late. And I can tell you that there was feverish work going on in those garages. Red Bull left around 1 a.m, Aston Martin about 11 p.m, and Mercedes 12:30 p.m. And on top of that, Pirelli also had a whole host of people working late to supply all the teams with their tyres. A lot of comments on yesterday's video saying surely all the other teams can't work on their cars until all the cars are there. Well, that's clearly not the case. To give you an example, the V-Carb crew left at about 5:30 p.m. because all their work had been done. A lot of the crew I spoke to today said that anything over 8 hours in terms of a flight can be problematic with back-to-back races. But the worst one is Mexico to Brazil. That is a very tough transfer, long flight, back-to-back races, and if anything goes wrong like it has done here, it is a real issue. Certainly none of the teams wanted that delay, but as it turns out, everything will be fine for FP1. I caught Jack Doohan and Pierre Gasly out on the balcony of the hospitality suite here doing some press earlier today. And interesting to see that Alpine have admitted that they put a lot of heat on Jack by signing Franco Colapinto. But the team admits that Jack did well in quali in Australia. And this race, with 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races, because this is a sprint weekend, this is an enormous opportunity for the young Australian to continue with his good form if you discount that error in the race, which brought his race to a very premature end. I, for one, will be very keen to see how he goes in both of those races this weekend. Now, Jack Doohan enters his 3rd Formula One race of his career, and I can tell you he's the 19th Australian to drive in Formula One. And to celebrate, I've done a signed print collaboration with him. He'll be actually signing in Japan this print. And if you want to grab yourself one of them, they'll be hand-signed and numbered. Head to the shop at kimelman.com or click in the link below. And remember, you get a digital image of him signing for irrefutable proof of authenticity. Esteban Ocon's trainer, Tom Clark, normally works with him in the garage. However, last weekend in Melbourne, this man was doing the training duties. Who is this? This is Michel, and he is Esteban's manager. So why wasn't Tom there? Well, he had a stomach bug, and that rendered him inoperable. So Michel jumped in and took over all the duties. I'm not sure he did any massaging, but certainly he handled things in the garage and on the grid. The track differences between Melbourne and China are stark. This track obviously is purpose-built, and it is quite a glorious facility. It's just sad we don't get more spectators here. This paddock is so different to Melbourne as well. Melbourne was very small, intimate, grassy, trees everywhere. This one is large. In fact, it is the largest paddock we have, and can sometimes seem a little soulless. And just behind the paddock are these beautiful gardens and lakes. It's a lovely place to photograph, I can tell you that much. Now, on a recent video, I talked about the start procedure and showed you this button. Well, this is in fact not a start button. This is in fact the abort button. This is the start button, and if you look to the right, you will see some well-protected buttons. You don't want to be hitting those any time by accident. And at some point, I'd love to get up there and shoot the start or the finish of a race from that position. Maybe it'll happen. Now, a couple of you have asked which driver I have the most photographs of in my Lightroom catalogue of the current 20. So I went and did some research, and here's what I found. I have the fewest photos of Gabriele Bortoleto with just 84. And then increasing in number, Isaac Hadjar, Kimi Antonelli, Jack Doohan, Oliver Bearman, Liam Lawson, all under 1,000. In the 3,000s, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri and Lance Stroll. In the 4,000 to 5,000 range, Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, Nico Hulkenberg, George Russell, 5,500, Pierre Gasly, 8,000. And then my top 5, Carlos Sainz, 8,400, Max Verstappen, 8,800, Charles Leclerc, 8,900. That leaves just 2 drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris. Which do you think I have more pictures of? It is Lando Norris, 13,400 odd, about 3,000 more than Lewis. Popular reserve driver for Alpine, Franco Colapinto, was quite excited to show off some local Argentinian treats. this morning. Apparently these go very well with mate, the drink that he was very keen I try last weekend. Well, I did try them and I thought they were a little bit like shortbread biscuits, but not really a fan, so I gave them a 6 out of 10. Now, hats off to McLaren for this very organised water bottle system. As you can see, everybody has their own water bottle with their name on it and a little spot for it to be held, and I gather these are cleaned perhaps daily or certainly at the end of every event. And I've not seen that with any other team. Normally the F1 swipe gates are painted black, but not here in China. As you can see, they've gone with the traditional China red and some lovely lanterns to give it a local feel. We are in the right place for great Chinese food, and I can tell you that Oliver Behrman is a fan of the local cuisine here, citing Peking duck and dim sum as his favourites. This whilst being interviewed and then presented with a panda as a thank you. Here's Lewis Hamilton as he entered the track today, not in fashionable kit, but in a Ferrari jacket. So we had 4 days last race of him wearing very stylish clothing, and then today we expected the same, but no. And he was careful too with photographers, choosing to dip his head or at one stage putting his hand over his face. I need to apologise to this man. This is Joris. He is a close personal friend of Charles Leclerc's, and I recently did a video about F1 drivers' entourages and I neglected to put him in. So a lot of you pulled me up on that. So apologies, Joris. You get your own little special section. He is in fact Charles Leclerc's personal life assistant. Has known him since 7, went to school together and is a fine young man. See this? Aston Martin have covered up one of their crypto sponsors, and there's also some covering up going on at Red Bull with Gate.io. That is a crypto, and unfortunately for those teams, crypto is a no-go here in China. So China says they're not to have those logos visible on the car or indeed on their kit. Did you notice at the Australian Grand Prix podium presentation there was glass running in front of the podium? Normally that is poles and wire. Not anymore, I understand, because Louis Vuitton, the major sponsor, or a major sponsor of Formula One, has requested it, saying it looks more classy. Not so good for photographs, though. Now, guys, before you go, please subscribe. I know a lot of you think you're subscribed, but some of you aren't. Or at the very least, just please like this video. And for a whole lot of extra content and my merchandise, these are the links that you need. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate.
That leaves just 2 drivers.